Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining us here for the Simply Spiritual podcast. Today's broadcast is brought to you by the I Am mantras. I am master. I am image of source energy on earth. I am master. I can master all that I desire. I am able to acquire all information necessary for me to achieve anything. I am seeker. I am teacher. I am great in and of myself. I am communal. So it is uttered, so it is. Please join me in welcoming to the show Dr. McCarty Bird.
Dr. Ken McCarty Bird.
How are you, Dr. Ken McCarty Bird?
I'm very well. I
Wonderful.
have quite a difficult day, you might say, but everything works out by evening time.
Yes,
And this
yes.
is
This is
what
what our
we give thanks to spiritual source for, because we're enabled beyond our humanity to do great things because of spirit in all of us. So
yes.
I'm pretty great feeling, and I'm glad to join you this evening.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me here. So, Dr. Ken, tell us a little about Dr. Ken, your humble beginnings, and what led you to your path to mastery and your spiritual pursuits.
Wow. That's a neat question on your path to mastery. I never thought much of myself as one who has attained mastery. But in fact, I did have a spouse who told me that you're an overachiever. I was taken aback with that statement from her because, again, I never thought of myself in those ways, but I did follow a path that led me to greater things in myself than I thought I could or would achieve. Because growing up, my dad thought the highest level of attainment that I would attain intellectually would be to become a truck driver. But there's nothing wrong with being a truck driver. If you have a wanderlust for traveling and knowing, getting around, that's a great career for you. But I saw in myself greater potential that I aimed at and was out there, in my opinion, waiting for me. And it began at a very early age. When I look back, now having been on the planet for over 60 decades, I look back and realize that whatever spurred me on to what I am and is yet to become began when I was at least 4 years old. At least 4 years old, because I remember what my parents did, my mom in particular, when she took us kids to a church. I think it was back then a Seventh-day Adventist church, and well, a Seventh-day Baptist. Later, we became Seventh-day Adventists, but I think the Seventh-day spirit has been in the family for a long time and is still so the case. But I remember clearly sitting near the front row, and the preacher was speaking his sermon. And I, a boy of 4 years old, was riveted to every word that was coming out of his mouth, wondering why is all these topics he's speaking on so relevant more than the lunch basket that is waiting for us after the church was over. I mean, my mom, I knew she fixed um, pudding. We call it back in those days, tired leaf pudding. And it's one, as I remember, it is wrapped in banana leaves, very spicy with cornmeal, cinnamon, raisins, and the Lord knows the rest of it because I was a boy and I only knew that I loved it. And this man should stop speaking so we can go to lunch. But beyond that, beyond that, the words he spoke found a settled place in my psyche that from that very day, I remember making a commitment. And when I look back, I can't understand about a 4-year-old making a commitment like that. But I was 4 because later I never lived with them. Much later than that, I went to live with my grandmother and my uncle in a nearby township across the river. I remember clearly that morning my mom saying to me, Ken, run up to the store and get me so and so. And if you come back, get it done quickly. I'm going to send you to travel with your uncle to live with them for a little while. And that was the beginning of my leaving my parental home. But what I picked up before then was what I carried through my life. And spirit life has always been the benchmark of my journey. And so at about age 17, I made a decision to join the church that my brother was going to, my elder brother, whom I follow. And I became a baptized member there. And that began my committed journey because I had a friend who was the same age as I am, and he is today, still alive. And he loved to smoke his herbs. And I have never been one to want to get into any vices. I made some decisions at my very early life from age 4. I decided no one would see me in a bar, no one would see me with a cigarette in my mouth, and let alone sniffing or poking in later life that most young people get themselves into. But at age 17, I made that commitment, and my friend didn't know what happened to me. He thought I was crazy. But whatever it was that began at age 4, I'd come to uh, a fulfillment to make a commitment to it. Now, fast forward to later life, I came to this country and I want to focus here on a particular turning point uh, in my life. Before that, I had seen very difficult times in my life as a child growing up because there was nothing about living with grandmother and uncle that was exciting because I was the only child there. And I lamented about my siblings that I was no longer with. So some of the bitter times came to a hilt by the time I get to early 20s and later decide what I would do with my life.
Mm.
But when it comes to mastery, I want to get into that. There are a few things that uh, became turning points in my life, and it began particularly with the study of healing modalities in massage therapy. I had an awakening, so to speak, when a friend of mine who went to the same church was at a similar turning point in her life that inspired me to study massage therapy. And from the study of massage therapy, there's a lot of modalities in healing that was open to me
Mm.
And in a way, there is a lot of spirituality in that because we did a lot of energy work in the practice of massage therapy. Having gone to school, did a course and graduated, and with a friend who went to the same school, started a clinic. And the idea of treating people's tension in their necks and backs and for tension, soreness, and pain. I learned that people's physical problem cannot be fully addressed outside of addressing the mind-body issues. What is going on in the mind often shows up in the muscles, in the nerves. And a big part of my training was how to perform neuromuscular rehabilitation. Whenever you work on the body, you're dealing with nerves and you're dealing with muscles, hence the term neuromuscular therapy. And I learned early that chiropractic work works well with massage therapy work because the chiropractor deals with the spine, the spine and the vertebrae. When you have an accident, you could have subluxation, you could have herniation within those discs, and the chiropractor has to adjust you to straighten that out. But that happens best when you align uh, chiropractic work with neuromuscular work in the way the chiropractor does the adjusting and the massage therapist does the muscular work, the muscular rehabilitation. Over time, I learned that when people come with pain problems, because most of the treatment we gave were to people who had accidents. Excuse me. And it's necessary to treat them for about 8 to 12 weeks. And people would say to you, it hurts so bad, it hurts so bad. Will I ever be back to what I was before? And I would say to them, give me 8 to 12 weeks and you'll be back to your old self again. And sometimes much before then, they would tell you, I don't feel it anymore. And that would give you a very good feeling that you could actually be a source of healing to a person in that much pain and soreness and tension. We're not supposed to call ourselves healers according to the premise of massage therapy and board recommendation. But we do find sometimes when we heal somebody in a very significant way. I found out further that, as well as I mentioned before, that in order to deal with the body, you also have to address what's going on in the mind. You have to address what's going on in the mind. And it requires a lot of talk therapy. During many of those hourly massages, there was a lot of talk therapy going on. And it inspired me to want to know more about what goes on into the mind that cause such pathology
Mm.
in mind, both mind and body, and sometimes in spirit as well. So I went to college and did a core counseling uh, course in counseling, and quite happy to know that I could continue to use all my techniques, blend them together and treat the problems in our profession. Many people saw what we did as uh, a masterful work. People would say to me, I know I'm in good hands. Are you all state? That was some of the comments. Or you have healing hands, all kinds of things people would say.
Beautiful.
But the main point to make here is the mastery of what I did there, as well as how I come about to be able to treat and address the mental faculties. I went to school and I was able to graduate uh, from a very difficult course in counseling and was able to graduate summa cum laude. And that was not one of the things that I anyone in my family would have expected. But so it is that I became a doctor in my own right. And everything that I may speak about with regards to how I master certain things. As I look back on the journey, it is clear for me to see that to be master of anything, you have to be in tune with your spirituality. You have
Absolutely.
to be in tune with your spirituality. And here's why I speak about what my life was like at 4 years old. What did I pick up at 4 years old? Where did it come from at 4 years old?
Mm.
Many 4-year-olds that I've come to know since then, looking back, were babies. I mean, they are babies. 4-year-olds are babies.
Yes.
But I guess growing up in the country and country kids were all out there long before city kids can go out there. As I mentioned earlier, my mom actually sent me to the store to get something she needed. And it was something that I was doing quite regularly up until that day, last day before I went to live with my grandmother and uncle. And so I see spirituality as a very important factor in my life. And everyone has the potential for a deep connection with their spirituality. When I talk about spirituality, I like to talk about the creator and the sufficiency within creation. The creator and the sufficiency within creation. Many people talk about the God in terms of belief. But I like to talk about the creator in terms of affirmation. I speak of the fact that what people ask the question, do you believe in God? But in contrast, I believe I don't have to believe in the creator, because there's proper evidence that the creator exists. I'm speaking with you, I breathe the breath of life. I am intricately and wonderfully made to achieve all the things I have. So the fact that I am means that the Creator is affirmed even in the fact that I am. So it requires no belief. What is what you need is to ask a different question, because what you can prove requires no belief. Belief is only necessary in lieu of proof.
Mm.
And the wonderful thing is that the Creator does not make claims that the believers do about God. And a statement I would make, and be careful of making it, and I don't make it lightly and I don't make it to be offensive, is that God's our creature created. God's our creature created. And we make a lot of claims about God's, which have never been proven. Many things we speak of about God and God's greatness are mainly in a book. And although I believe in the Bible, in the sense that the Bible is written by an anthology of different writers that do not necessarily agree with each other. There are points that are top-notch commentaries and truth, while there are things that are not. And so we hear many things about the Lord or Jesus, and we cannot prove it conclusively. Jesus is, for example, attributed the word, I can do all things, not that one. All things are possible if you only believe. It is attributed to Jesus to have said that. But when it came to that being true for Jesus, we find that it did not pan out. Because when he was up against the Romans and the crucifixion, he prayed, Lord, if it be possible, remove this cup from me. But he died. So either he did not believe or it was not possible. So the statement is untrue. However, all things are possible within the sufficiency that is given to us individually to guide our lives and nothing more. When we go overboard and make claim about a God says this and God says that, and it turns out that it doesn't pan out, we know that it is time to ask a better question than, do you believe in God? Rather, the best question to ask is, how much do you know about the Creator and the sufficiency within creation? All of that is given to us. The Creator is not micromanaging any human being as the gods are said to do. You know, the bearded man in the sky looking down upon everything that you do. The Creator is the one responsible for the known universe as well as that which is unknown. And only NASA, with their up-to-date telescopes, give us an idea as to how vast and how expansive light-year distances of the planets and galaxies are out there. And in order to create all that, we know that it is not created by any man, but Source, the Creator, the supreme of all existences, known and unknown. But let me get back to spirituality and how we master what is given to us as gifts and as talents by the Creator. Not to be micromanaged. The micromanagement in any person is within the person. Within the person. Everything that we are to become, what we are, what we were, has already been set within the divine sufficiency within us. That's why we can build rockets to take us to the moon. That's why we can build such magnificent architectures in buildings, and even the arteries, the expressway arteries that seem so complex to think that somebody sat down and planned all this and got it done. I look at, for example, the Howard Franklin Bridge that spans Tampa into St. Petersburg. And over the 38 years or so living in Tampa Bay, I've seen two of those bridges put up, and now they're tearing down the old one that was there when I came. Now, if you travel across the Howard Franklin Bridge and you look at the history of the different sides going across the water, know that when I came here, those two sides were not there yet. And the one that was there when I came is being torn down right now. And it is the intelligence that the Creator put in all of us that gives us that kind of expertise. We take these things for granted,
Yes.
but they are great achievements of science and the ability to master ourselves with good discipline in learning science and learning all that is necessary to make our lives better, because the sufficiency gives you all of this. So how can you understand the sufficiency? The sufficiency is what people call the Christ. Within the sufficiency comes everything that you can do within life, within human life. And in order to make good use of the sufficiency, we must be aware of it. We must be ready to meditate. We must be ready to employ prayer. And we must be able to even fellowship with other folks to elevate that which is in us, because the more you talk about it, your words are energy that uplift you and others. As your words go out to the world, the energy becomes active eventually. What you think, what you speak, you will eventually do. And such is the sufficiency's work in everyone. So if I were to tell you anything more about mastery, I would tell you about the spirituality that guided my path to this very day. And I
Absolutely
think,
beautiful. And you're very modest, of course. The Sufficiency, that is the name of your latest book, correct? Tell us about
yes, indeed. Yes,
tell us,
indeed.
yes.
So I went into a period of research, and the term sufficiency did not readily come to me when I began research and decided to write a book. I did not immediately have that term in mind. But as I research and see where, how far and deep the rabbit hole went, there was no better term than to describe how supreme power works. The supreme workings of the Creator. How does that work? And it boils down to the fact that everything that is created about gods and what gods can do, it's allowed, it's made possible by the sufficiency in all of us to see the evidence of different teachers teaching deep truths that are meaningful to every life. It all comes from the sufficiency in all of us. But the supreme power, the supreme source of all things, is the Creator and the sufficiency with which we have within our own creation. It's in the trees, it's in vegetable life, let's put it that way. It's in animal life and it's in human life, the sufficiency. Everything that is created is alive and it operates with this sufficiency within it. Everything that we
So
can do
sufficiency,
is made possible by the sufficiency. So when I speak the title in the book, the sufficiency, you may wonder, what is that? Well, the subtitle explains in this way, 12 distinctions between the creator and the God's person. That what I'm talking about this evening is that many people consider it all the same, but I have found to be true, 12 distinctions that separate gods from the true and powerful source of all life, which is the creator. And there probably is a better word when we address the creator. And as I was speaking to my friend here, I thought source was a good term. And I think I'm going to practice the feel of it to see if it sticks. But it's
That's
glad to be here and to
gratitude.
address the topic.
Gratitude. I do prefer source. Um, Tell our viewers how they can get in contact with you. Your books are available on Amazon, and how many books do you have available on Amazon at this time?
Well, the last book I wrote is The Sufficiency, but I have about at least 10 more that I wrote, and they're all except for two, all except for three, are on Amazon. You can find my books there. You can uh, put in the search box, books by Dr. Ken McCarty Bird, or books by Ken McCarty Bird, or just put my name in or the title, and it will come up for you. And
And that is
I would,
McCarty without an H, correct?
right, that's McCarty without an H.
So that's Dr. Ken McCarty Bird, correct?
Right, that's correct.
Okay.
Whenever I put in the search box myself, I often come up with somebody with a doctor whose name is McCarthy.
Ah,
McCarthy, and that kind of confuse the issue until you try another way of doing it.
yes.
But it's McCarty without any H, so Dr. Ken McCarty Bird, or just by Ken McCarty Bird. The novels are as Ken McCarty Bird. And I have a trilogy there, as well as called Urban Saint, as well as another novel called Between Friends. And
Well,
both are exciting page turners.
your a fascinating spiritual journey is well worth another podcast. Do visit us again. I'm looking forward to interviewing you again, Dr. Bird, because
Thank you.
obviously the time we spent does not give your wealth of information justice. So we do look forward to meeting with you again. Thank you so much for being on the program today and for illuminating your mastery of your life thus far.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for having me.
I'm happy that you are embracing source energy. All there is, was, and ever shall be. So that's a beautiful thing because we are all one, and the sufficiency as well as um, the term source exemplifies the oneness of humanity, of us all. So thank you for elucidating that for us.
You're welcome. Thanks for
And
having me.
and we'll see you next time.
And see you next time. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Simply Spiritual, where all spiritual matters are simple. See you next time.